San, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, we are here, Knife Merchant.
Knife
in San
Merchant.
Diego.
Yes, with our friend David.
How are you?
Very, very
Literally
good.
good afternoon today.
Good afternoon, that's right. What a pleasure it is to be here with you. And by popular demand, a lot of people loved the videos last time talking about the different knives. They didn't know there was so much to know about knives.
Mm-hmm.
So today you're going to do a great follow-up video.
I am. We have a lot of the questions that I have as follow-up have to do with knife sharpening and stones. And stones is another kind of there are a large variety of stones out there. So I wanted to at least kind of dial in the basics and help to make it easier to have a decision on which stones would work for you as a home or professional user.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's great. Okay, let's get right into it.
Okay.
Let's start.
Well, I have a little setup here of the different types of stones. The first one over here is a diamond stone. These ones are a complete diamond stone. This one is made by DMT, which is a U.S. manufacturer. It's sitting on top of a magnetic base. This is a really nice way to hold your stones. You can just flip them in and out. They come extra coarse all the way out to extra fine. One of the other options that people may see on diamond stones is something that looks like this. Here's a small version of it that might be hard to film, but this one has little holes in the plate. A lot of manufacturers will say, well, the metal shavings will collect in the holes down below, and so it's an improvement. Realistically, what this is a way to put fewer diamonds on a plate, so it makes it less expensive. But for my purposes, I think that you're better off buying a full diamond plate. The pluses to a diamond plate is it cuts very quickly, and it's something that we will use specifically for repair work. And if you have one of those Wusthof knives with a big heavy bolster and we're trying to shape that by hand, diamond plates work very well for that purpose. The downside to a diamond plate is that they are a very coarse crystal and they kind of leave deep scratches. So even if you get into the fine diamond, you don't get as nice mirrored finish as you would with, say, a traditional water stone. However, they will definitely make your knife sharp. The other thing is there are fewer particles on a plate than there would be in a slurry mixture on a traditional knife stone. So just the fact that the granules are scattered further apart tends to cause it to make deeper scratches.
Are there great, like, different levels of coarseness in this?
There are, absolutely. And it goes from extra coarse down to extra fine.
Okay.
And the extra fine, you may feel it and say, boy, it feels smooth. But it will bite when you put a knife to it.
Okay.
The next type, I don't really have a fair sampling of natural stones. This is an example of one that we use here. And natural stone is something that is naturally occurring. They would dynamite. This right here is an Arkansas stone. So in Arkansas, we take novaculite, which is a type of quartz. They can dynamite this or jackhammer it out and mill it flat. And then as far as how coarse that stone is going to be, it's just graded. They will have a hard Arkansas, soft Arkansas would be the most coarse. Hard Arkansas is kind of their fine stone. Then they'll have a surgical black, and that one is ultra smooth. And technically there's translucent if you can find it. The problem with translucent is that it tends to break in the process of trying to mine it and get it out and turn it into a stone. The nice thing about them is they don't dish. The biggest clientele we'd have for them was a lot of people who are testing gold. They would do a scraping of the gold and then drip acid on it, and it tells them what the carat weight is of the gold and things like that. For knife sharpeners, these things polish. They polish very well, but for any kind of a rougher, coarser sharpening, it's just too darn slow. The way that I use this one here is when we are, let's say somebody has a Yanagi with a shinogi line that needs to be reground. Diamond plate works very well for flattening that, but it also leaves a lot of burring, and so we'll use these flat diamonds just to kind of remove the burr and leave it laying down there without grinding into a stone. So that's basically the only use that I have for the natural stone right now. There are plenty of natural stones in Japan also, and in Europe there's Belgian blues and things like that. Now each of these have their own individual properties depending on the sediment and the type of soil that they come from. The problem with them is you would have to know exactly what you're getting. You'd have to try the stone to see if it provides, a lot of those will provide a better slurry and things like that. But you have to know the area from which they're derived, and it's kind of a shooting match, and they're very expensive. So I kind of like man-made stones. We can actually put together a specific grit and a bonding agent and know exactly what you're getting.
Okay.
So we have diamond stones, you have natural stones, and then oil stones. This was, what your grandfather would use. They've been around for a long time. Silicon carbide is what they're using. Different bonding agent than what they would use in the Japanese water stone. They are very slow to wear. Although anybody who's worked in a kitchen has seen one of these big IM 313s that looks like a U-boat, they do get dished out. But the advantage of these, you were recently out fishing. You may see that the deckhands will put something like this on the boat. They can leave that floating in the bait tank. They will use it without water. And then it's not creating the slurry that any of the others will. We also sell a lot of these to the poultry processing plants in Los Angeles. Technically, their boning knives should stay sharp throughout the shift, but if they don't, they'll have one of these small stones that they can use without needing to worry about slurry and making a mess, and so they can touch up a knife very easily with that. So it does have its usage, and woodworkers who were using chisels and things like that can they could dig into some of the other stones. This is a better option, at least for their initial cuts. The next type is traditional water stones, the type that needs soaking and build up a lot of slurry. They come with and without bases. These ones right here from Matsuhiro have the base built in. So the nice thing about those is that you don't need a stone holder with them. And there are huge varieties on these things, some and quite a range of prices. A lot of them coming from China. And some of them are very good. For us, the problem with it is that they are inconsistent. So we do carry some. They're made in China under different manufacturers' names from time to time. Messermeister has some good stones, but we have to test them all the time because they change. And so when we're getting them in and we know, say, there's a little change in the color or something like that, we come back and start using them and say, no, we have to reject this batch. And we would reject it if they wear too quickly is the biggest problem, or don't wear quickly enough if you can't generate a slurry. The ones that we have coming from Japan are very consistent, and that's really what I like. I don't want to have to question whether it's going to be different from one batch to the next.
Sure.
And the last time you were here, I was hinting at a company I hadn't finished testing. That was these guys at Pride Abrasives.
Okay.
That's a full U.S.-made product. This one, they sell these stones individually. That one right there happens to be a 3-piece set of a 1,000, 3,000, and 6,000 grit. And I am really happy, particularly with that 1,000 and 3,000. They cut faster than other 1,000 grits. This one cuts equivalently to a 600 for me as far as how quickly I can take an edge down. And that's just because they put more of the cutting abrasive, the aluminum oxide, in that stone. And the 3,000 also does very well. And the 6,000. Now, I don't love the polish I get out of a Pride Abrasive as much as I do from some of the other stones. However, the edge is, it's actually a very suitable edge. It becomes cosmetic as to whether I get a nice mirror polish out of it. So that 1,000, 3,000, and 6,000 puts a beautiful cutting edge on. The 6,000, I think, can be worked on. I need something a little bit softer to give me a little better feel when I'm doing those, and to give a little better mirror polish. These ones are actually being made by Minonokuni. The guys who do our knives, you'll recognize the logo. They have a 220 and a 1,000 and a 4,000. The 4,000 we have tested, worked on them for a while, and finally approved it. The 4,000 does a beautiful finish and polish. And I would suggest the 1,000 and 4,000 in that series are the only two stones that you would need. However, they haven't finished making the 4,000. It'll be in here on our next shipment. There's one gentleman in the country who has one. He got our test model.
Okay.
But those ones do a nice mirror polish. It is kind of funny sometimes how you can get a stone of a lower grit to do a nice mirror polish. This Matsuhiro 3000, for instance, puts a beautiful mirror polish on. And I would not expect that from a 3000 grit stone. The bonding agent on this one, it will feel like a hard rubber eraser. And I'm assuming that's why I'm getting the polish while still having the cutting ability to remove grind marks from the coarser grains. Norton also makes some good ones. One of the nice things about Norton is that they come with this box. This box has the rubber feet on the bottom. And on the top, it has grooves to hold the stone, so the box itself becomes a stone holder. And that's a nice feature, just one less thing to buy.
Okay.
And also a nice, easy way to store the stone without risk of chipping up the corners and things if it's sitting out in the garage. And this is a combination. This is just an example of how inexpensively you can get a stone. This one would be selling for $30. It is also made by Naniwa, but they're having it produced in Vietnam. So basically what they're saying on here is that we're controlling the quality and providing the supervision and having it done in Vietnam, so it's much cheaper. Naniwa is more commonly known for their ceramic stones than their traditional water stones. So I'll come back and talk about suggestions on what price range to buy depending on what you want to do. But I just want to touch on some different examples of traditional water stones. They will come in combinations with and without bases. All of them require soaking. And then you have ceramics, which are usually a resin bonding agent that allow you to just splash and go when you're sharpening. Like literally just, you can soak them for a minute or less, or you can just moisten them up here with a spray bottle. So ceramics are excellent at polishing. I don't love them as my initial stonework, just because I feel like it takes a lot longer to get the first edge on. So I just kind of drop down 2,000 or 3,000 grit to get the job done. So if I'm trying to accomplish what I would normally do on a 1,000 grit stone, I'll go to an 800 or even a 600 in a ceramic. Now Naniwa, there are the big companies down there are Naniwa and Sharpening. I don't carry both because I just don't see the point in duplicating them, but they're both excellent quality stones. Naniwa has two different versions, the Super Stone and the Professional Stone. The difference is the Super Stone has a little bit less abrasive in it, and it's a little softer on the bonding agent. The unique thing about these professional stones, they used to be called Chosera. Now they just call them Naniwa Professional. I can also work this as I would a diamond stone. So if I am trying to remove a chip from a knife, I can come almost straight up and down on one of these, and it does not cut into or scar up that stone. So a little slower to release slurry, but they last for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And particularly the guys that are doing hairdresser shears and things like that, these dead flat, hard to damage stones are a big plus. They also tend to opt for something with a glass base. Sharpening is well known for the glass base. These ones are the Kramers. And I actually think Naniwa is making the Kramers for them. But the point of mounting it on a plate of glass is that they know the glass is dead flat. And then they put the stone on the top. So these are a premium set. And I just want to point out this base. They sell this bamboo sink base, but I don't think a lot of people realize this has feet on it also. So you can just use this directly on a countertop if you prefer.
Okay.
So, basic types of stones then. Diamond, only downside to those for me is that they don't provide quite the mirror polish that I'm looking for, specifically on sushi knives and things like that. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's like $70 for each grit size on these particular ones from DMT. When you get into traditional stones, it's kind of all across the map on the pricing, and that's where it's helpful if customers talk to us or shoot an email and I make a recommendation. But I would say that if I were going to buy just two stones and not worry about a base, the Masahiro 1000 and 3000 grit does an excellent job. Masahiro 1000 slurries up in a way that helps you to get your shinogi line nice and clean on a traditional Japanese knife. If you are heavier in damaging knives, you do heavier wear, they're really dull before you go to sharpen them, I would go to 600, and you can still jump to the 3000 and you'd be fine. My preference, of course, is to use all three, but if you're trying to save money, this is a good brand to go with just two stones. And price-wise, I know that these ones are selling around $70. These ones are around $42.
Which ones? Oh, this.
Yeah, I think it may be $45 and $42. The 600 and 1000 are very close, but not a bad price here in the $110 range for a pair.
Also, that's the one that Hiro's using too.
It is, yeah. Yes, that Masahiro, he's used for years. So have I.
Years
He
and
had
years.
been doing the 6,000 grit for quite a bit. Know you picked up 3,000 recently. Do you have a preference between those two?
6,000, 1,000 and 3,000 more are using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that too. I'm really surprised at how high a polish I can get off of just that 3,000.
Right.
So, and it's cheaper. Usually the higher grits cost considerably more money. So then Nortons are also a very good choice in that you have this stone built in. It's around $75 for a 1,000, 4,000. 4,000 grit on this puts a nice matte finish on a knife. It's not mirror, but it certainly cuts extremely cleanly. And if you want to go higher, they make the best 8,000 in the business, I think. And we use the 8,000 regularly back here. It's a yellow stone. These guys here for $30, if you're looking at saying, look, I kind of want to get into it and try some stone sharpening, but I don't want to spend a fortune on it. This one right here, the Naniwa MV something product control, Naniwa Japan company, but they are made in Vietnam.
Okay.
Then, instead of a stone holder, I'm just showing what we will do sometimes. We want to be cheap.
Yeah.
Old block of wood that we got from Home Depot for free. This is shelf liner from the drugstore that we still use regularly. I just cut them into pieces. And then you can just drop your stone directly onto here. Even the ones that come with the little rubber foot, the problem is when you're down on the table, as that stone starts to wear, you no longer have knuckle clearance when you're trying to sharpen the knife. So
Got it.
this is a good way to get into it inexpensively, really $30. It's $1.10 for a roll of that, and hopefully somebody gives you a piece of wood. So that's a good way to get into it. This is a 1,000, 3,000 combination. Now you do get what you pay for in stones. The downside on this one is that it's very slow to slurry. But the 3000 does actually a really good job and a nice polish. This is one that's right out of our tank. We've used it a lot. Just because if we sell things, and I have students in here, they're on a budget. They just got into the business and had to spend a lot of money on knives. We want to break into this slowly, learn how to sharpen knives, and make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're going to own in terms of knives and what you want to do next, because the type of knife will help determine what you want to do on your next stone purchase. So I also wanted to get into some of the accoutrement and the things that you use for knife maintenance. Stone holder. I've been through a lot of stone holders. One of the most important aspects to me is the size of this little lip right here. Some of these, that lip is very high, and then I like to use my stones all the way down to little sticks of chewing gum. With this Naniwa stone holder, I can do that over a product called Steel X, which I had brought in and tested, and a couple of other brands. The other thing is, we're sitting on carpet, so you can't tell, but I'm usually sharpening on a surface that has either this or something that's carpeted underneath just to contain our mess. And when I first put this on a hard surface, I was really surprised that a lot of them wobble. And the Naniwa stays nice and flat. Also, we soak ours non-stop and always dirty. These are nice, good stainless steel knurled knobs that don't rust up on us. Mm-hmm. Then you need something to flatten the stone. There is a large variety of products used for flatteners. The guys who are doing shears and things like that, surgical tools, they are really wanting the ultimate flatness on a stone, and this is a diamond plate. Quite pricey, but they want their stones just absolutely dead flat. For what we're doing, sharpening Western style knives in particular, doesn't matter if they're a little bit out of flat. We don't need that degree of specificity. But this one is kind of cool. This is also a Naniwa plate, very large. We will use these here because we have a lot of stones to do, and it's right by the sink. It's important to have running water over these while you're flattening your stones.
Can you just talk about how to do that? What's the process you have running?
Yes. For these, if the stone needs to be wet, we need to have this wetted also. But with these, you can just kind of do a figure-8 motion, and you can grind these away very quickly.
Okay.
To be sure that we are getting these things nice and flat, we have a big pencil over there. We draw lines across it. Just really roughly draw some lines and flatten it until all the pencil lines are gone.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you how long to do it for, but yeah, but basically that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. So this will never wear down because it's really,
Well,
really hard,
it
right?
will. They are a wear item,
Oh, they
but
are wear- okay.
we've been a few years on ours. They haven't worn down
Okay.
yet.
Got it.
inversely, this one is from Norton. The nice thing about this one is it's wider than any of these stones. So these ones, and I bring them to the sink under running water, and we just kind of run this one back and forth until they're flat. I do flip it around midway through to make sure we're kind of getting even wear on it. This one from Norton seems to work best on all grit sizes. It's kind of funny, you get into certain stones and certain grits, and some of these stone flatteners just don't take it down very quickly. These Naniwas take it down on virtually any stone type that we have. So it's a little thinner than the stone. So, and I'm not really great at doing this figure 8 motion, so I tend to just alternate directions like this and then flip the stone around and do this kind of thing. And, you know, over time they still remain nice and flat for me.
Okay.
You can tell if you're doing it wrong because the stone starts looking like a skateboard ramp.
Okay.
So, but, you know, even if it's very dished, as long as it's flat, it doesn't really matter that much that it's flat in this direction.
Okay.
And for some knife work that we're trying to round out that shinogi on some of the Japanese knives, we'll have some deliberately dished stones so we can kind of rock up and get a little contoured edge. It's a specialized thing that some people are requesting. But so flattening the stones, and you know, prices on these things are very good, in my opinion. Currently, and I know that this video may be up for a while, these are like $25, these are $30. These ones are expensive, and I don't expect most people to use these big ones closer to $60. But if you're doing a lot of them, it helps. We have a couple of them on the sink. I can grab a stone in each hand, and we can just get it done.
Okay.
But these products here, this is dressing stone. Very inexpensive, under $10. And what this is for is when you are into some of the higher grit stones, it's very slow to release the slurry. So before you're sharpening, you would wet the stone and bring one of these things around and get that slurry going. This one right here is one of the Naniwa Super Stones. It's 12,000 grit. And this one has been used. I wanted to kind of leave it as it was with the black on there to kind of show what loading up is. Loading up is where the particulate is not really being released and we're getting some metal from the knife down into the stone, and it will affect our ability to get a nice polish. So I would use this slurry stone, kind of clean it up, rinse all this stuff off, and do it a second time to get a clean slurry.
Okay.
And the reason I'm doing half, I wanted to show you this also. This is a Nagura. Naguras are generally sold with the premier stones. In other words, if you bought 10,000 grit Naniwa, Chosera, or professional stone, you'd buy a 10,000 grit fixer. And you can use this on an 8,000 grit. You can go ahead and use it on something lower. You wouldn't really want to use it on something higher, just because if you got a 12,000 grit stone, don't put 10,000 grit slurry on it. You're trying to get the higher polish. Mm-hmm. That being said, I'm going to use this on a 12,000 grit stone just to kind of demonstrate how they work. This one also does a very good job of removing our loading up, but it'll get a little green slurry. It does a better job when the water's been sitting on it for a few minutes. Although these are splash and go, 60 seconds does help. And when the stone's really flat, they kind of catch on there too, so you can come up and use the end. But again, we rinse all this off and get rid of anything that's loaded up and try and get a nice, fresh, clean slurry on there. And this is really just to create mirror polishes on large sections of a knife. Can't even really see that one building up much.
I see a little bit, yeah.
You'll see it in the texture of the knife, though. That's what's kind of odd about them. It's like that little bit of grain really makes a big difference. But these are kind of stone maintenance items. These ones, if people were not buying a flattening stone, trying to save money, I would at least get one of these. Because this will clean up any of the marks that they have going. And they wear, this one right here we've been using for a couple of years. You can see the original size.
Okay.
They last a really long time.
Okay. And you guys are at this all the time?
Yes. Yeah, I buy them in cases of 50, just so that we don't run out. And they are sold under some other brands for, $30. And so it's like, look, same guy's making them. But this will do a good job of kind of, it's a small area. So I don't want to say this is going to flatten your stone very evenly. But if you're fastidious with it, you can get away with this instead of a flattening stone. And there's always using a section of concrete or something outside.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get into it and say, look, I don't want to jump in and spend a lot of money right now.
Right.
But those are the basic tools. You have the flattening stones. I'm a big fan of traditional water stones. Ceramics work very well if you travel, are trying to keep it cleaner. They are less of a mess. You don't have to find a container to soak them in. They slurry a little bit less and are quicker and easy to use. Oil stones are great if you're in a situation where you literally cannot have slurry, and generally for people who are not even putting oil on it because they are using water and things like that, using, like I say, in the poultry plants and on the fishing boats and things like that. That's still a good way to go. And diamonds, can't knock them. Diamonds are really good. You don't really need a mirror polish on most knives. We do for sushi work and things like that, where we're trying to have such a clean edge that we're not rupturing any of the cells or spilling the oil out of the fish. So when we're being at that level of picky, we would eschew diamonds, or at least use them in the first stage of sharpening, and then go to traditional for your polished edges. I also have some knives over here. I nearly forgot to mention. A lot of our customers were looking at the knives that Hiro would use. But Hiro's a sushi chef, and most of us are doing a lot more Western cuisine. So I had contacted one of the masters who was making our Damascus steel knives, talked to him about what I would like for Western chefs. I like the carbon. The carbon knives they have a very good edge. It's easy to resharpen, and they get extremely sharp with blue steel in particular. But I wanted it encased in stainless steel. That gives us a lot less area of concern as far as keeping it in good shape for rusting. So this is what he put together 3 different styles for me, and this is the one that we agreed upon to go into production. The name on these is Homura, Homurra. I asked the master to name it, so give me a suggestion on a Japanese term for these. And the Homura is the color that the steel attains when it is at the right temperature for quenching, when he knows that steel is perfect to quench and is going to hit the Rockwell hardness that he desires. He also says, I really like the way that it looks when I carve that onto the knife.
Let's take a look at that.
The other thing that I was looking for in the stainless steel, I wanted something that's fairly scratch resistant. I have seen, Shun Blue, they had a line of stainless over a blue steel. Unfortunately, the shapes were kind of unusual. They were all butcher's knives. And the stainless steel would scratch if you just looked at it. And unlike those were factory production pieces. These are handmade knives. So you can see when you look down at the thickness here, and then the delicate taper all the way down to the tip.
Beautiful piece.
Yeah, it's got some heft to it, and a nice big handle. Very, very comfortable knife, and just extremely sharp. So much fun to use. I get a big kick out of when I'm cutting through thick chicken breasts or something like that. Feel a little resistance at the beginning of the cut, and then you feel the cutting board. They just drop right through product. In fact, this is mine. This is the first production piece that we had made, and I brought this one just so that people can get an idea of what it'll look like when the carbon starts to patina.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not very easy to rust. This one, I actually left lemon juice on it too long. Last week I was making some ricotta cheese, and you stir lemon juice into your dairy product, and I've never measured anything in my life, I don't think. So halfway through I realized I don't have enough lemon juice. So I'm cutting through this, but I still have to keep stirring constantly. Lemon juice sat on that for probably 30 minutes before I remembered to come wipe it off. No red rust occurring.
Oh, nice.
So blue steel has a little bit of carbon, like 4% or less, or chrome rather, at 4% or less, and that seems to be enough to really slow the reaction for oxidation. But they make them in 240 millimeter, 210 millimeter, a santoku, and a petty knife. 240 millimeter is a beast. I'm somebody who uses a 10-inch chef knife, and I'm down to an 8-inch on this one. I like the way that one feels.
David, thank you again so much for having us here at your business, The Knife Merchant. Always a pleasure being here. Always a pleasure listening to you talk about so many of these stones.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate the opportunity to try and show some of these products and hopefully provide an education so to make it a little easier decision than it was for me when I was first trying to buy stones.
Right. Not only provide the products, but also provide the service. Amazing customer service. Here we have Megan. Megan, hello.
Hello. Thank you both for visiting. We really appreciate having you out to the store. And one thing that we wanted to add on with you here, as something to say thank you to your followers for continuing to support your channel and our business, is a little giveaway. So we're actually going to do a Pride Abrasive stone set. And to enter to win the giveaway, all that you need to do is post a picture of a meal that you've prepared, maybe a meal that you've learned from Chef Hiro, and then whatever knife or knives you've used to prepare it, and post it on any social media platform. It can be Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You need to tag Hiro's channel as well as our business, which is just Knife Merchant. So submit that photo, the photo of whatever knife you used, or if you didn't use a knife, whatever tools you used to create it. And next Tuesday, we're going to announce a winner.
Sounds great. And will you pick the winner, Megan? How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to do a random submission. So
Okay.
you need to enter to win, and you can enter as many times if you'd like to submit multiple dishes, or if you'd like to submit the same thing on each platform. That'll count as an additional submission for each one.
Sounds
The
great.
tapas cooks have an edge here. They
Yeah.
make this-
Yeah, you can submit the same dish 3 times, but for each platform that it's submitted on, that'll be an additional entry. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to give us a call. Our phone number is 858-578-9007, or you can email me, which is Megan, and it's spelled MEGHAN @knifemerchant.com.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good to
Thank you,
see you
Hiro.
guys.
Very good seeing you.